Trump's presence at the Davos Forum gets a mixed reaction. The IMF revises Mexico's 2018 and 2019 GDP growth forecasts, and Apple investors are getting spooked ahead of first quarter iPhone X's earnings report. Hello and welcome to today's edition of Mexico News Network's Breaking News Business. I'm your host, Joseph Garza. Let's go to the information. Donald Trump declared America open for business during his speech at the World Economic Forum in Davos, the annual gathering of movers and shakers, which this year featured the first visit by a U.S. president in almost 2 decades. It would appear Mr. Trump wants to be known as a businessman president. His speech at one of the world's most global meetings was almost entirely about how he is making the United States more attractive to investors. But the president tried to strike a balance, tempering his nationalist agenda with reassurances to the globalist and cooperation-minded audience. His protectionist vision of America first does not mean America alone. In fact, Mr. Trump left the door open to re-entering the Trans-Pacific Partnership, a sweeping trade deal from which he withdrew a year ago, saying perhaps the United States could resume negotiations with many of the participating countries at once. The president said he will negotiate trade deals individually or as a group with Trans-Pacific trade countries if it is in the interests of all sides, adding that unfair trade undermines us all. As if making a salesman's pitch, Mr. Trump repeatedly boasted about the nation's economy and pushed for international cooperation combating terrorism. But he left unaddressed a number of concerns for the globalist community, including climate change, the fate of refugees, and diplomatic solutions for a number of the world's hotspots, including the Middle East. In other news, the International Monetary Fund upped the forecast for Mexico's economic growth in 2018 from 1.9% to 2.3%, according to a report from Alejandro Werner, the director of the fund's Western Hemisphere department. For 2019, the IMF projected even stronger growth of 3% for the Mexican economy, an increase of 0.7% on its previous forecast. Werner said Mexico's outlook is projected to benefit from higher growth in the United States, although uncertainty about the outcome of the North American Free Trade Agreement renegotiation and Mexico's July presidential election will weigh on growth in the near term. The U.S. tax reform and associated fiscal stimulus are expected to temporarily raise U.S. growth, with favorable demand spillovers for United States trading partners, especially Canada and Mexico, during this period, the IMF said in its World Economic Outlook update. The organization also upwardly revised global growth forecasts for this year and next, saying the world economy would grow by 3.9% in both 2018 and 2019. Both figures represent a 0.2% increase from its last update in October. According to Werner, investment in Latin America will play an important role in the growth of the region, and that the retreat of inflation leaves room for a more accommodative monetary policy. Moving on, by the time February 1st rolls around, Apple Incorporated investors will be anxious to see the first fiscal quarter performance for 2018. Apple's December quarterly report, scheduled for Thursday, is one of the most hotly anticipated reports of this earnings season. The debut quarter for the $1,000 iPhone X will be closely scrutinized by investors looking for a read on Apple's prospects in 2018. The success or failure of this new pricey, ultra-premium new phone will inform Apple's iPhone strategy going forward. However, the rumors are abound in Wall Street that Apple's first quarter earnings will be underwhelming, citing weak demand in Asia as a major factor. As it is, investors have already been spooked by a steady stream of anonymously sourced news reports suggesting soft demand for the components that go into this new iPhone. Wall Street has gone into full panic mode as supply chain checks out of Asia indicate that March iPhone shipments are trending below expectations, GBH analyst Dan Ives wrote in a research note on Friday. So far, those worries have pushed Apple's stock down about 5% from its recent high of $180 earlier this month. And given that Apple's stock is still trading near its 52-week high, there's plenty more room to fall if the company confirms people's fears with a weaker than expected quarter. And finally, let's turn to the markets. The Mexican peso increased 0.73% to 18.6109 from 18.4764 on the dollar in the previous trading session. On the other hand, the IPC Mexico increased 0.5% to 51,065 from 50,778 in the previous trading session. This was all for today. Thank you again for staying with us. I'm Joseph Garza. Remember to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Google+. Log on to MexicoNewsNetwork.com for more information on Mexico and the world. Until next time.